and welcome to the Last Movie Outpost for all of your movie news, reviews, and everything cool about film. We are back today with another interesting interview, this time about the movie Time Travel is Dangerous. We have with us the writers Anna and Hilary Shakespeare and the director Chris Redding, who originally wrote the original story with Ruth. Is it Syrat?
Yeah, that's right.
Is that
like
her
pirate.
Name? Yeah. Oh, who also stars in the movie. So, in a nutshell, how would you describe Time Travel is Dangerous to people who haven't come across it yet?
Well, I'll take this one. It's a muck duck, and it's about Ruth and Megan, who are two best friends, and they run a vintage shop in North London, and they find a time machine, and they travel back in time to steal things from the past to sell in their vintage shop. And obviously, like, madness ensues, and overuse of the time machine starts to break the universe. It
is brilliant. I described it as one of the best time travel documentaries that I've ever seen set in Muswell Hill. Anna and Hilary, it was Chris that came up with the original story with Ruth, but I mean, how did you expand on the screenplay for that?
So we came on board. Chris and Ruth have been working on it for ages, and they basically made a short film. Chris and Ruth and Megan, because Ruth and Megan, I don't know if we've said this already, but they play themselves, like they're real people with a real vintage shop. So they're kind of playing a fictionalized version of themselves. So them and Chris came up with a short film that they shot a long time ago. And then they've been working on sketches and like adding to that world for kind of years before we actually met them. And had already started working on a feature. So we came on board when we were kind of talking to Chris about about how to make it into a feature, because we made some other like indie low budget features. And at first we were just like, oh, we'll just come on board to kind of just help out as friends and give some like feedback, and then we just got deeper and deeper into it as we started talking about the script, and then ended up co-writing it with Chris, and then ended up producing it. So yeah, it was kind of like a bit of a, we never really intended to get involved until we were in very deep.
And then we kind of have like writers' room sessions, like the three of us would get in a room and be like adding jokes and writing stuff, and then we did it still during casting, so we would quite often cast and then rewrite, and then cast and rewrite, and even between the shoots, because we shot in blocks, we'd know what we have from like the first block of shooting, and then we'd sometimes rewrite the next section. So we did have a lot of time to like keep going back to the script, which I think was really.
And it's kind of interesting, like writing about two real people, because you're trying to capture like Ruth and Megan's voice, and we're kind of writing a fictional relationship arc for them. Whereas because they're not used to acting in that sense, they're like, oh, but I would never say that to her because we're best friends. And I try to get them to fall out, or like, I think that was the part that was kind of maybe most challenging from the writing perspective. Kind of write in how it would feel like natural for them to say, even though they're not necessarily actors. That was quite fun.
So. Obviously, the main theme of the film is time travel. Where did the bumper car come from?
It came from an old theme park. I think I saw it on eBay and I bought it for about £100, and I went and got it. And then we were working on that. We were working on that for a good few weeks, sort of adapting it to our needs and revamping the lighting so we could film with it. But yeah, that. We had a different sort of time machine in the short film, but I saw it and I thought, well, that's kind of a perfect thing, and it looks quite good because it's got that sort of 80s look about it.
It was great. It was one of those things that some people, they have the budget for DeLoreans and stuff like that. We went with bumper cars. I totally get it. I've described the movie as a quintessentially British comedy. Were you inspired by things like Douglas Adams and Hitchhiker's Guide, that kind of thing, or where did you get your inspiration from?
Yeah, Hitchhikers is one. A lot of Terry Gilliam type stuff as well is very inspirational to us. We love feel good comedy, so we love things like Paddington 2. And, it's a quite accessible feel-good comedy at the end of the day. And then visually, we went a lot down the sort of Terry Gilliam in the art department.
Yeah, I guess for us as well, we really like a lot of mock docs, like Final Tap, and like What We Do in the Shadows, and even like The Office, and that kind of. I think that informed the style of comedy a bit as well.
Yeah, it came over really well. My favourite line in there is, I couldn't get to the back of the storeroom the other day, so I just used a time machine to get another one. And it's that utter British laziness, which I don't want to say British laziness, but I mean, that's exactly the way I would think if I was going to do that. You've got some incredible cast members, for example, Stephen Fry, Brian Blessed, Mark Heap, Jane Horrocks, Tony Way, Guy Henry, Johnny Vegas, just to name a few. Were you pleased? You said you did some rewrites, but were you pleased with all the cast that you had?
Yeah, and it kept growing as well because we started with like the Testies. They were kind of our first cast, which
are the nerds in the film.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you haven't seen it, it's a group of nerds that try and stop Ruth and Megan from time traveling are called the Testies, and they were kind of the core of it, the heart of it that we started with, and then as we kept going, we were able to also, show people, when we were casting, show people footage of what we'd already shot, and it kind of kept growing and growing. And by the time, we could get Stephen Fry on board, we could even send him the film. So it was kind of like the cast just kept growing, and it was really exciting. Yeah, we kept thinking like, oh, there's no way he'll say yes to this, and then we were like, wow, that's amazing.
There's so many of the cast where we just completely got our first choice. We were like, oh, this guy would be amazing for it.
Yeah.
And,
actually, Tom Lenk.
Tom Lenk is like one of our we were big Buffy fans, and there's a character called Alex who were like, this is just so much like Andrew from Buffy in our heads, and then we were like, should we just see if he's available? And he was just so up for it. Like he saw the short film and he was like, oh my god, this is exactly the kind of thing I'd love to make. So then
and he's been like a huge supporter of it as well. Like he keeps coming back to the UK. I think he's fallen in love with England, and he just He's
coming back for our release. He's coming back. Oh, he's in the UK now. He's coming to Alexandra Palace, our screening on Saturday. So yeah, he's been around a lot.
I'm so annoyed at that. I've been invited to that, and unfortunately, I can't make it. And I'm really gutted because I would love to have come up. It's the joys of living in the countryside. But you obviously you really appreciate the support that they give to indie movies like yourselves.
Yeah, and I think like Tom is like, he makes his own stuff as well. So I think sometimes when people have kind of been through that, they know how difficult indie film is, and they get behind you and like support that. So
it's so hard to promote a small film like this, without like a huge studio behind you or whatever. So whenever any actors are like, oh yeah, I'll push this for you, it means a lot to us, and makes a big difference to the film.
Again, that's good to hear, because I know somebody said that one of the things that America gave to the world was marketing. And like I say, they have generally, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions to spend on it. But it's little independent movies like this. Do you think there's more creativity in indie movies than there is in making movies in Hollywood?
I mean, you have so much more control. That's the thing. Like, you can't, I think loads of stuff we did, we never would have been able to do.
Yeah, I think when you have a big studio, or like when you have a lot of producers, it's like it just becomes a kind of too many cooks thing, or like there's so much money like on the table that everyone's really risk averse and really afraid to try something new, and then it kind of ends up kind of going back to the like lowest common denominator, or what everyone can agree on. And I do think when you're doing an indie film like this, you're kind of just like, you're using creative solutions all the time, and you're just kind of doing what you want and what you can do, and just I think it comes up with something different that's not like the same thing that's been done before, because you can, so. And
having like Ruth and Megan as the leads, which I think it's so fun that like they really are best friends, and they really do run that shop. And I think that's another thing that people are like scared of, to ever like take a risk on.
You'd never get that through in Hollywood.
Because Chris, you've worked in the Alien franchise, haven't you? Again, would you answer that the same way, that there's more freedom in independent movies than there is them working inside a franchise?
Yeah, I mean, when we made the Alien short, we were obviously dealing with a big property and a big studio, so having to do notes and get feedback at every sort of stage, and in pre-production as well. That's just an experience that you have to learn from, and it was really valuable. And obviously, if you are going to work in a big property, there's lots of stakeholders involved. Now with with our one, you know, there's only 3 of us essentially that are the decision makers. So whoever can win that argument, you're going to see that on screen, the outcome of that. And it allowed us to really also get our sort of joke density up. Like the script is really cram-packed with gags. It's a lot of fun. We tried things which, as Hilary said, wouldn't have been tried if it was a larger project. And we sort of solved our problems with creative, mixed media, sometimes homemade approaches to different sort of filmmaking techniques. So it was really fun.
Chris actually made some of the puppets himself. Like the octopus. I was just saying Chris actually made some of the puppets, yeah.
But again, it comes over as just more realistic. Ultimately, you know, sometimes movies I watched, the Fantastic Four, and I think the baby was completely CG throughout the whole thing. Whereas when it's real and it's visceral and you can get your hands on it, you know, I can imagine going to that shop and just seeing the bumper car and just having it disappear and reappear with a load of junk from the from the past.
I think it helped us, just from a dramatic sort of storytelling standpoint. Actually, the Ruth and Megan being real, the shot being real, was starting in a mock doc sort of storytelling technique. I think really sort of grounds this fantastical time travel story. So there's a lot of by the audience, everything's sort of accepted to a large extent before you start doing bonkers things and incorporating time travel and creatures and extra dimensions. So it is an interesting technique to use as a filmmaker.
Oh no, I was just gonna say we did also start obviously we go for when we go into the Unreason, that was shot in a studio, but everything else is like on real locations, and I really like that in films where you can see, you know, you follow the camera from one room into another room and it's real, and it will go from outside into inside, and it's all, and we're all like, you know, like we filmed in Andy's Motors, which is like this massive garage, which is actually everything like geographically adds up. Basically, it's all in Muswell Hill, so you could go to all those places and like track where they went and stuff like that. It all adds up, which I just really like to have like the reality there. What's that other one we shot in the Audio Gold? Yeah, that's like pretty cool as well.
Again, to me, like I say, it came over as very much like Hitchhikers, because you know, Arthur Dent is travelling the universe in his pajamas and dressing gown, and it was kind of in that same sort of theme of just sort of shot in this little shop, but these local testies had managed to make a time machine. It was great. Where can people see Time Travel is Dangerous at the moment?
So we've got one more big event, which is the Addy Paddy one we were talking about, Alexandra Palace, on the 27th of September, which is all day. It's like we've got 2 screenings. We've got a local fair going on with like Ruth and Megan against sell their vintage stuff, and we've got bands and games. So that's the last one where you can see it in the UK in person in cinema. And then that's sort of a big celebration of the fact that that's on the 29th we're coming out on home release. So then you can watch it on kind of Amazon, iTunes, what are the other ones? Rakuten,
Ubiquity.
Yeah, some other
all of the major streaming services.
All the platforms.
Yes.
So
I'll include a link to my review down the bottom. I gave it a good solid 4 out of 5. Because, and to be fair, it's probably going to grow after A, talking to you, but B, like I say, seeing it a couple of times. It was just a wonderfully British movie that I thoroughly enjoyed. So I want to say thank you to Anna and Hilary Shakespeare and to Chris Redding. We can't thank you enough for joining us here at the Last Movie Outpost, and good luck with the movie. Let's get it out there and get people seeing it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.